my
if
God.
you're not, what? Go yourself. All right.
Yes. Look at Tom hates Lisa. He absolutely hates her guts. What a great show we had last week, huh, Tom?
It was an incredible show. Incredible show.
Such a good time.
If you're not getting educated about local and national real estate news, market conditions, national headlines that could be misleading, you're doing yourself and your client base a disservice. This is the Knowledge Brokers Podcast. I'm Tom Toole here with Byron Lazine, and Lisa Chinatti's decided to grace herself with her presence this week. I guess
I've actually graced you with my presence.
Okay.
Yeah, well, how can she grace herself?
Exactly.
You want to start over now? I mean, what you're...
No,
she just likes hating on all of us here. So
Lisa's
quite
an academic, remember? So you got to be careful with your words.
Good thing I barely got out of Syracuse University. So we've got some interesting stuff happening this week, you two. President Trump, he went to Davos. It reminded me kind of like secession when they picked the president when he went out there. That was very interesting. And he talked about housing a lot. And I want to dive into that first. And I think we've got a listener to the show in Congress because there is a bill being proposed right now to eliminate federal capital gains tax. And Redfin came out with a report saying that home sellers outnumber buyers by a record margin. I've got some questions about that. There's a killer product getting launched from Realtor.com called Realtor.com Plus that we'll unpack. And we've got some book winners. So make sure you stay tuned until the end. And let's start off with what President Trump has been doing at the World Economic Forum on Wednesday. When the president spoke to the audience, he used some of his speech to share his views on housing affordability. And it was interesting what he talked about and what he didn't talk about. So there's the $200 billion in MBS securities purchases that he's talking about, the limit on institutional home buyers. What didn't come up was a recent proposal to allow home buyers to tap into their 401k penalty-free for a down payment. And, you know, what I got out of this, and I want to hear your reaction, is that it looks like there is more coming. We talked about this a couple weeks ago, that they said these first two initiatives were the first of many initiatives coming out of the government to improve housing affordability. And there have been additional announcements with the 401k tax penalty free. And he also talked about that reducing credit card debt, which I find very interesting. I don't think it's going to happen because you got to deal with these banks and changing loan agreements and different things. But they're coming out with things, and they're at least throwing a lot against the wall, is probably trying to see what sticks. I don't know if any of it's going to solve this. What do you two think?
Byron, I'll let you go first because I know you did a big download of it.
Yes.
Yeah,
before.
I mean, I think when you pull out I thought it was really unique to have the president of the United States, the world leader, talk about the U.S. housing market on the world stage, the World Economic Forum. I don't remember ever a speech from the president at Davos where they brought it all the way back to the American dream, the U.S. housing market. Now, it's a long speech and it's a small part of the speech, but that was at least unique. And I've obviously been a little bit hesitant to buy into some of the, initiatives that have been floated out there by the administration as being game savers for the housing market. I think there's a lot of little tiny, maybe short term, maybe they're going to be wins and maybe they're not even going to be wins that have been floated out there. And it's a midterm election year. And I think there's a lot of branding and marketing going on. And we talked a little bit about that last week. But the biggest statement that was made on that stage as it relates to housing was when Trump said, "We are not going to be a renter's nation." That was the biggest claim. That's against what we've been hearing for the last 10 decades. America's becoming a renter nation. America's becoming a renter nation. He always has a way of if he starts running with that as a slogan for the midterms, we will not become a renter nation. We will not become a renter nation. People will get behind that. Again, I need to see long-term plans to believe in some of that. But really, we've floated around 63 on the lows to 65, 7% 68% on the highs. I know 69% of home ownership back when, mortgages were basically fraudulent, but, really 63 to 65. We're between 65 and 66 right now on home ownership, the rate of home ownership. So it's overstated when we say things like nobody can ever buy homes, nobody's buying homes. All these different things are very much overstated. We're not a renter nation as much as Jerome Powell probably wants us to be. Yeah. He could care less about homes. But I thought that was the most impactful statement. The 401k, he backed off of that. He actually said yesterday that Trump did that he doesn't want. So somebody got in his ear. Some Wall Street person said, no, don't let people pull out of the 401ks. And he said they're doing so well in their 401ks, they shouldn't do that. If you can ever take your money out of a 401k tax-free and penalty-free, you should do it, because at the end of a 401k, you get hit with taxes. People believe I'm putting money into a 401k, I'm not going to get hit with taxes. No, you get hit with taxes at the end. You take it out early, you get hit with a penalty. 401ks, they're listen, if you want to put money into a 401k and wait till you're 70 to enjoy some of it and pay taxes on it, that's fine, but not very attractive. I don't think the people listening to this show are trying to stack their chips in that direction. And so I was actually for this one. Like, if you could pull money out of a 401k with no taxes, no penalty, you should do it no matter what the reason is, because you avoid the taxes. But to go ahead and put it into a house, it does start to make a lot of sense if that's the only way you can buy a house. Now, not a lot of home buyers probably have this fat, juicy 401k, or, because you'd argue they'd have a big, fat savings account. So I just thought it was kind of unique that the U.S. housing market got a little bit of a spotlight in Davos in front of the world leaders. There was a lot of other discussions obviously happening, but those are my general thoughts.
Excuse me. Any takes on some of the strategies that he took? I think, I don't know if we said it on the show or before the show, but throwing a lot of ideas at the wall to see what sticks. Mm-hmm. What did you guys think about some of those?
Again, I think you've already seen that the $200 billion mortgage-backed security purchase is kind of a momentum move, and it got washed out the minute the trade escalations picked up this week with the Greenland stuff, and we went from 6.01 all the way up to 6.2. So that 0.25% was lost. So people on the hot sheet were saying Byron is biased against Trump. He doesn't like Trump because I didn't fall in love with the idea that $200 billion of mortgage-backed securities was going to solve rates. It was a short-term, maybe quarter-point hit benefit at the most. That's already been washed away now with the Greenland stuff that's going on. The banning of institutional investors is fine. I mean, I'm fine with it. I don't want to I don't want to crack the door of regulating the housing market, regulating the free market too much. And once you open that door, it's just, hey, we've already done banning institutional investors. How about we ban people with over 500? How about we ban people with over 100 doors? How about you can't own an investment property at all? Americans already, according to this survey, do not 32%, according to Clever Offers, who sometimes they're not.
But the survey sample size is dog shit with them. So
sometimes their surveys are kind of dumb, even though they're Clever Offers. But 32% of Americans apparently do not trust investors. But that category is convoluted because it's grouping in cash buyers and all this thing. It's like, how can you not trust an investor? Just somebody in your town that owns 10 apartments and is providing somebody a place to live cheaper than what it would cost to buy in that market. I get the cash buyers because Open Doors can completely ruined that cash buyer market. They've ruined it for the good companies like Zoodealio and but like, because they hate real estate. Any agent that says they hate real estate agents, Clever, Redfin, Open Door, it makes consumers not trust you because they go through the experience and it's awful. But I don't like highly regulating any market, and you're cracking the door when you're doing this ban on large institutional investors, Wall Street buying, of regulations. And so I just think that's a slippery road. And so most of the housing affordability plans that the administration have put out are, to me, not long-term fixes. Very interesting thing Trump did say on the stage was, we're fixing affordability, but we don't want everybody's home values to go down either. People who have bought a house have worked very hard to buy a house, and now they have this certain value. They're proud of that value. This is like, Lisa, this is a Northeast problem. We are from the Northeast. I don't live there anymore, but I'm there every month. And there isn't another region in the country that virtue signals more than these Northeast people. You got one party running every single state. They virtue signal till the cows come home about things like housing and affordability and how we need to help people, but they are the biggest NIMBY offenders, not in my backyard. They will not loosen up regulations to building. They will not make it easier for builders to invest because they don't want it in their backyard and they don't want their home values to go down. And, Trump's alluding to some of that in the speech. Like, he's saying he doesn't want people's home values to go down. But when you pour in supply to a market and it starts to outweigh demand, look at Florida right now, look at Texas, the people who currently own the assets, they go down in value. There's downward pressure on those assets. And so, places like the Northeast, they just crack me up because they pretend a lot that they want to come out and help people, but not when it impacts their pocket.
Yeah, it's interesting. So my biggest takeaways were the credit card one with limiting interest rates. I don't think there's any chance it happens. Not spoken about there, but the 401k thing. I know you've got your opinions about it, Byron. I think it's a little bit dangerous to go that way, and kind of tying into the issue with the credit cards. I think Americans just don't save enough in general. And I think if we allow them to pull out of the 401ks, which feel however you want to feel about a 401k, it's a safety net in retirement for most Americans. And I think the problem is if we allow them to pull it out and put it into a home, I don't think that they save the money in any other way. And I don't think that it has the same long-term value for those same Americans for a variety of reasons when we let them put it into real estate investments, especially if it's a primary residence. So I think it's a little bit of a dangerous ground. And I think same thing. I think if you limit the interest rate on credit cards to try to get rid of credit card debt, I think the average American just finds a way to take on more debt. I think the problem is bigger societally, and I think it's also part of what's playing into the housing problem, in that Americans have this, I've got to keep up with the Joneses mentality.
Mm-hmm.
We've got to have a house as big as our neighbor. We've got to have a new car just like our neighbors. We've got to have all the latest tech and everything else. And I think, unfortunately, trying to address some of these things through credit card rates and allowing Americans to take out of 401ks, I don't see it solving the housing problem. And I think some of the bigger stuff that we need to address is the expectations about what a home is and what buying your first home actually looks like. So
yeah, it
slightly
doesn't
different
look like
take on
Instagram. Everybody looks at
No.
Instagram,
Well-
looks beautiful, and then they go and
Yeah.
actually home shop and they're like, man, my apartment's 10 times nicer than this. Well, because that's the
Right.
earning level you're at right now.
But if you allow them to take that out of a 401k to put into that nicer home, I think it just perpetuates some bigger problems long term, because we all know, everybody listening to this podcast knows that nicer home comes with higher taxes. It comes with more expense to maintain the yard. It comes with more expense to heat it, to cool it, to do all of these different things. And I think, unfortunately, that's actually going to diminish the saving, the amount of that consumers or Americans actually save, more so than it's going to help them build long-term equity or long-term wealth. So I think it's I don't think that's a wise plan, because I think it just shoots people in the foot longer term.
So I have a personal story, Tom, on this. on the 401k thing. I
Go
made a
for it.
huge mistake when I was 21 years old with a 401k. Before I tell it, I want to be clear here.
Don't do this.
Lisa is taking the side of President Trump on this 401k topic. And I was of saying, I would pull the money out if you can go tax-free, because Trump is in your camp, Lisa, where he's saying he wants people to keep the money in the 401k. And so him and Scott Bessent, the Secretary of Treasury, was kind of for it. Trump is against it. So Lisa and Trump are in alignment on this one topic. I am,
I don't know that it's for the same reasons, but
yeah, maybe
sure.
Two-faced. Here we go.
Geez. Now she's saying no. The reason I'm saying this because people.
If I could roll my eyes into the back of my head, I would have just done it.
If I say one thing, like this happens in the hot seat all the time. If I say one thing against one Trump policy, people are like, he's biased against Trump. If I say one thing for Trump, people are like, oh, he's talking, right-wing talking points. No, I'm not listening through a biased political filter like a bunch of people are. And I'm making decisions individually on each individual plan. And I'm commenting on that. And I'm not getting emotionally triggered because I'm not a 9-year-old. Anyways. 401k.
I mean, I don't know the 9-year-olds.
401ks, you get taxed through the nose at the end. So if there was no penalty to pull it and you were a savvy investor, that's kind of where I'm leaning towards that. Now, to Lisa's point, and here's where I'll say, Lisa, you're probably right. There needs to be guardrails on this stuff. I bought 3 homes. A lot of people know the story. I bought 3 homes from ages 19 to 21. This is years 2004-ish to 2006. And this is the run-up. This is during the mortgage crisis.
Mm-hmm.
3 homes, 4 mortgages. And I was just kind of running like a wild man, didn't know what I was doing. Fixing up homes well beyond what I should have been fixing them up so that I could drive up the rents, or on the last one in particular, make it more attractive for a flip. I mean, I had this thing done ready to go to market when, Enron blew up and the whole world started blowing up. And on one of those purchases, I pulled and took the tax penalty at the end when I was like, could see that everything was crumbling down on me, from a 401k that I had with General Dynamics. I worked for this company, Electric Boat in Connecticut, that built submarines. And General Dynamics had split at the time. The 401k had bumped up. But that account alone, had I just kept it in there, Lisa's probably, even though I left after 5 years, I didn't invest over all these years. It's probably well over $1 million, that one account. And I took a huge penalty on it, ended up putting it into this real estate investment that I had no idea what I was doing. I was the movie The Big Short. I went bankrupt on December 31st, 2008, and lost all of that. And had I just kept it into that money in the 401k, that'd be another investment account, $1 million, $1.5 million, $2 million. I mean, over the years, that thing has split and just done very well. And it was a really dumb decision. So I think, Lisa, to your point, when you have somebody who, like at this point, if I had a 401k and I could take it out tax-free because I'm going to be very safe with the money because I've gone through situations like that, I'd do it in a heartbeat. But for somebody,
you're also in a different spot too.
I'm in a totally different spot.
Different money allocated.
Financial maturity, business maturity. I mean, think about what we were all doing when we were 21.
Yeah.
Good
so
Lord.
To Lisa's point, not having guardrails on a first-time home buyer who, you got to really have guardrails and understand the risks fully of what you're doing and
a backup plan. And I think that that's what's missing, right? Like, we know Social Security, but even for us, like, I'm not counting on Social Security for any sort of income.
No.
Right.
Yeah,
and I
it's not
think,
gonna happen.
and if you think about the trends that shake out now with people aging in place in their homes and doing for a variety of reasons, whether it's because of capital gains tax or anything else. And so people aging in places in their homes, and they're sitting on they've got all of their money in this huge asset that they can't really sell because they get hit with taxes in a different way. And then they, you see a lot of elderly people living in their homes where they can't afford to maintain it. They can't afford to live, right? Like a really good life because they can't access the money or the equity, however you want to put it, that's tied up in that big asset. And I think we run the risk of furthering that problem, among other things. I think it's societal more so than financial in some of it. Now, I don't. What I'm not saying is that I don't think affordability is a problem, because I 100% think affordability is a problem. But I also think that societally, what we think of as buying a home today isn't what it was 30 years ago. Like
Sure.
or even 20 years ago. Like, think about the first house each of you guys owned. I know mine wasn't what like my kids think of when they think of buying their first home.
Mine.
Tom, I love your grin.
Go do a Google map search of Hickory Street in Norwich, Connecticut, and look up that dumpster fire of a little street in the world. I had a 2-family in that property that I bought in 04, whatever it was, is probably still not today worth, even after the COVID surge, or it's maybe right back to what I paid in 2004, because that area is such a dumpster fire of the world, such a crap hole. And so, yeah, but I was thrilled to have it. I was thrilled.
Hello, Norwich.
I was shout out to Norwich. I was mowing the lawn and putting in the little, diagonal lines. I made that, I cleaned that thing up. I really thought at the time, with the casinos and a couple other things, I was dumb. Okay. I was really dumb. I'm a little less dumb today, but I thought the area was going to blossom. And there was a couple things I bought into. You got to be careful of people with real big visions. There was supposed to be this, so that's not the
Bobby,
house.
Excellent
That's
work.
not the house. That's nice. Go to 30 Hickory Street. I think it was 30. Let's look this up. I think it's 30 Hickory Street. How can I not remember? 1930. What number was it? There it is. That's my first house right there. Man,
How much did you pay for it?
That thing hasn't changed. I paid $199.
So it looks like it's going up 10% in 20 years. That's a pretty good.
I paid $199, and I, obviously, like you were doing back in all those days, I put the closing costs into it. So I was probably
107% financing or something. Byron,
yeah,
something like that.
Probably, it's 210 or something. This estimate says 220. Nobody would pay Look at that maroon painting. Look at that picture. This is
chipping and peeling paint.
This is unchanged from when I owned it. Nothing is different, by the way. Those gutters are the same. Every
satellite dish.
Yeah, did you have the satellite? He was probably watching NFL Ticket and gambling with the local bookie.
I think at the time we had 4 satellite dish. They were all over the place, but this is unchanged.
I can see you out there with your little push mower that has the blades that just circle around.
Yeah.
They have a little backyard. By the way, nobody would pay $199 for this dumpster fire that I paid in 2004. So some areas do get worse over time. But listen, I was working on that thing every weekend. I renovated both the upstairs and the downstairs. I was living downstairs, and I was really thrilled. All right, get this off, Bobby. This is depressing. Yeah. Jesus.
All right, so let me jump in about some
to have that
here.
house. And to your point, there was no Instagram then.
Right.
Everybody was living, a different lifestyle. Now you see the top 0.1% of everything, and you think that that's what you should have immediately.
Right. Yep. 100%.
Well,
Tom has a story, so let him go.
Well, so I did the same thing. Bought a home. I was 22 years old after 1 year in real estate. I sold it about 2 years ago after, thanks to the COVID laws or initiatives, that the tenant stopped paying rent for 2 years, but that was my problem. So it was great. Went to eviction court. Hope no one ever goes there. I sold it for $5,000 less than what I bought it for. You can look this street up if you want. We're not going to do the same thing. It's 12th and Buttonwood Street in Philadelphia. Up-and-coming neighborhood, Byron. There's going to be a park. They're going to build all this stuff with the city. You know what happened? Absolutely nothing. It still looks exactly the same because it's one of those transitional neighborhoods, right? It sounds like you were kind of in the same boat. So you got to be very careful with these things. Now, Lisa, your point, I think there is a societal issue here. So I got some stats on this. The average American saves between 4.4 and 4.5% of their annual income as of the end of 2025. Most financial advice, and I'm not a financial advisor, they target the savings you should put in the bank or put away in a SEP or a 401k or whatever it is, about 20% of your annual income. So we're seeing about a quarter of that. And I think that the problem here and why the credit card initiative, that's the one that scares me the most. It's kind of like when people were like, hey, we're going to forgive all your student loans. So you get to borrow this money and don't pay it back. Well, now you're talking about like 28% down to 10%. That causes bigger issues similar to the financial crash in 2008 because people were living above their means. So there's a book out there. My mentor gave this to me, and I'd encourage everyone watching the pod to read this. It's called The Millionaire Next Door. Either of you guys listen to this or read this book?
I'll add it to my list.
This is like old school. I was like 24 when he gave it to me. Shout out to John. I think a couple of you guys have met him. And he talks about these two doctors, and I think this really sums it up in the book. So they call one a prodigious accumulator of wealth, and the other's an under accumulator of wealth. And they said both these people made about $700,000 a year annually. The PAW, so I don't say prodigious constantly here, he drove like a used car. He lived in a nice neighborhood, but it wasn't like the high-end neighborhood where everyone's got things. They would save their money, right? They wouldn't be spending all this stuff. And he was accumulating wealth constantly because he was saving that 20% or more. The other doctor makes the exact same amount of money, got a new Porsche every year. He was constantly moving up. They were buying all this stuff. And I think that is a major problem, Lisa, in society right now. You're absolutely right, where people are looking at what can I do? And they're financing the crap out of everything. And I think that's the bigger issue that people don't talk about here. And if you have a savings plan, and real estate agents are notorious for this, right? They sell a house and they go on like vacation to Mexico or something immediately. I see Byron laughing. You know what I'm talking about. It's like instant. So there is a societal issue around savings, and I think that is part of the problem that I don't know we can change. Mm-hmm. Byron, you talked about this in your breakdown that looks like what the president's trying to do is come up with some stuff that's going to give some short-term relief. He's throwing a lot against the wall. Credit card idea, horrible idea. I don't like a lot of these initiatives here because they're not going to do anything meaningful. There's a meaningful saving problem right now, and I don't know how you fix that. I think that's probably the bigger issue more than anything else.
The credit card idea is like Bernie Sanders playbook stuff. Bernie Sanders is the one that wants to regulate how much a credit card company can charge as a percentage. Now, so like everybody's, this is where people they just get caught up in people's names, but like the same people who supported Bernie Sanders are going to call this stuff stupid. By the way, I think it's stupid. I think regulating markets, I'm against. I'm a full-blown capitalist and very proud to say it.
Yeah, I agree there.
And some of this stuff is not, going in that direction. And so you got to be, I understand it's a midterm election year and everybody's going to try to beat the chest of how they're going to solve for affordability, but you start cracking the door open for more regulation, you are getting further and further away from what capitalism is supposed to be.
Well said. Now, there's a good point here. Lisa, you talked about capital gains tax, and I do see something meaningful. And we've talked about it on the show here. We've talked about it on our radio show as well. I think we got a listener in Congress, which would be very exciting if this was actually the case. So there's a bill that has been proposed. Now, look, it takes a long time for a bill to become a law. We've all seen that video when we were kids of how it all works. Representative Craig Goldman of Texas introduced legislation this week dubbed this is a great marketing name, by the way, Don't Tax the American Dream Act. Like, that's going to sell a lot of people right away.
I'll wear that shirt.
We get it made.
I'm going to get it made
by Bam.
I will wear that shirt.
And this would eliminate federal capital gains taxes on the sale of primary residences. The bill was introduced on the 13th, and homeowners could sell their primary residence without paying capital gains as long as they've lived in the property for at least 2 years. And this is not the first person that has called for an end to capital gains tax. It also came from Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene from Georgia. And, I mean, obviously it's been introduced. We've talked about the exemptions that are only $250,000 for individuals, $500,000 for married couples filing jointly. These have been unchanged since 1997. And if you look at what happened with home prices, they've basically tripled. If you look at the averages across the country since that time, Lisa, this really hits on your point of people, they have all this money in their house and they're just getting taxed on it.
Yep.
And a 1031 is very difficult to execute when you're having that much equity. Imagine if you lived in your home for 30 years and it's your principal residence. You have to buy multiple properties in some cases or move somewhere that you don't want to move to. If you want to downsize, it's going to cost too much money. This could be meaningful. What do you two think about? Do you think it's going to actually make it through? I guess is my first question. And then I think we all can agree on the bill that it's a good idea. I like, we've talked about it on the pod here.
I think it's a phenomenal idea. I believe 2 years is too short a time period. And I can understand that maybe it was designed because of the way that they do it now. But I think if we want to really get the intention of what it's designed to do, I think you have to look at it and say that the capital gains exemption comes in place when somebody has lived in their home, say 10 years or longer. I think that they're.
Well,
tell me more.
What about a blend, right? Like, hey, if it's less than 10, here's the caps.
Yeah.
And then more than 10, there's an unlimited. I mean,
how about just don't tax people on their primary residence ever?
But 2 years,
it's
criminal. What kind of, if they bought the home 2 years ago, Lisa, what kind of gain are you really seeing when you look at costs and everything else? This is how we coach people in real estate. We've talked about the magic formula for buying a home. Well, one of them is, can you live there for at least 5 years? Because when you buy and sell, there's too many costs involved. So I think that's a little faulty logic.
Before I go on a rant or something, Lisa, is it because...
Can we get a meltdown? Can we get a meltdown?
Our over-under. I need to almost push the buttons.
Let me just ask you a question.
Yeah.
Is it because you believe that there's going to be a bunch of people that take advantage of the system and claim investments are primary, and you're just worried that there's going to be a million scammers out there? Is that like
100%
what you're trying to hedge against?
Okay. Yeah. And I mean, look, we all do it, present company included, right? Like one of the things that we do is we pay our accountants to find loopholes. I pay my accountant to find loopholes.
I legally
my accountant to file a legal tax return so I don't get audited again.
My name is Byron Lazine.
Last time I got audited, I got money back.
My name is Byron Lazine, and I legally play by all of the rules and follow
100%.
all of the laws. Lisa Chinatti does not speak for me.
For me. I need to look. I've already been audited once. It's horrible. I hope it doesn't happen to anybody here. And because we did things legally in the right way, we ended up getting money back. So,
but my point is, there's ways to find a legal loophole. Like we all know that.
But I was talking about scammers, and then you're like, we all do it. I was like, wait a minute.
No, there's no scamming happening here.
So I'm not saying scammers necessarily, but I'm saying you've got to close the door to a loophole, right? And I think that anybody who's owned their home for 2 years, that's not really like your primary residence. And if you've got enough money in there to be toying, like hitting a limit of any amount of money, it likely wasn't your primary residence. And I think what we have to do is be super intentional, maybe a blend, like Tom said. Like I could get behind a blend, but there is you lose those tax dollars and there's a deficit coming from something else, right? So I think you have to kind of understand the balancing of it all, and just saying it's a blanket elimination creates an issue in another area.
I've never owned a primary 10 years. I get bored after 4 or 5 years. I want to climb the ladder again.
We moved 9 in the last one. Before that, I think it was about 7. I mean, I could see our current place being 10 plus, but I mean
4 or 5 years, 6 years. I fixed it up, but now I got more money I made more money. I want to go buy something nicer.
Yeah, but you're not what we're trying to solve, right? Like
I'm trying to solve me not paying taxes. This is exactly what I'm trying to. I know what you're saying, where you're not going to probably be above the 500,000.
Right. And you're
That's Lisa Chinatti with the red tie. Of course I do. Of course.
Can we Photoshop Lisa's head on
Yeah,
that, Bobby, and maybe make it into like an AI video?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like that AI that makes your dog dance, just make my mouth go.
Get a
Bop,
Sora
bop,
app
bop,
going
bop.
here, right?
But here's the, you two
I
are
understand
not
what you're saying.
the demographic of who we're trying to solve for, right? You can afford to move. You're not stuck. It's not and yeah, I can't articulate it any better. You two are not who I'm trying to solve for.
No.
Yeah,
Oh,
no,
'cause you hate
I
us.
get who I get who. Well, that's true too. I get who you're trying to
Well,
solve
wait, well,
for.
I missed that. What was it?
I said because you hate us.
You
Yeah.
hate us, yeah.
Yeah. You don't
I
want to
love
see Tom and
you.
I flourish.
Oh,
Trying to hold us
Are
back.
you kidding?
As long as she's flourishing more, it's got to be a very cadence of who's flourishing the
That
most.
was a joke. If anybody that's
Byron.
jumping to the
Byron's gonna
keyboard
get
right
eliminated.
now, it's Byron.
Eviscerated.
Let's get Byron off the pod.
But this would be something that I think would meaningfully bring inventory to the market and solve some of these tax problems for people. So I hope. Do you guys think it's going to pass? I guess that's the question. And I mean,
No time
everything's
soon.
so partisan right now that even if it's a great idea, you got all right. It probably gets through the House since it's backed by by Republicans. Are they just going to vote it down in the Senate because it's a Republican-backed bill? Like what's going to happen here? I wish it was bipartisan. That would increase the odds.
It's likely not to pass because it will be kind of branded by some as asset holders getting another benefit, and they don't want to see people with money have any benefits. Some people don't.
Okay, next topic.
All right. So I tend to agree, Byron. So speaking of sellers, Redfin dropped this article. Very irresponsible headline, if you ask me. Home sellers outnumber buyers by a record margin, upping buyers' bargaining power. Now, this is accurate in some point. They actually did a good job with the heat map. Bobby, I'll send you this link if you maybe want to put that up in the pod, where it shows where that's actually true. And they have this chart here where they're saying there's 47.1% more sellers than buyers. This is the strongest buyers market on record. I mean, are they taking hallucinogens right now? I don't see how this is accurate in the Northeast. Some parts of the country, absolutely. Texas, Florida specifically, they do a heat map here. And how do you find out how many buyers are out there in the first place? Like, where's that data? I mean, I've got some questions about this.
Well, their chart goes only back to 2012. So when they say on record, it's like, well, your record isn't very long, Redfin.
I agree, yes.
That's the problem with that. And that's why the headline is extremely misleading. And, you do have just, as Lance Lambert's told us, an extremely bifurcated market when you look at U.S. housing right now. What's going on in the Northeast with the, lack of inventory compared to what's going on right here in Southwest Florida, what's going on in, parts of Texas. They're completely different. And you can have a conversation with an agent down here. I can get in my car right now and drive an hour up to Cape Coral and stop in real estate offices. And the conversation there is going to be dramatically different, quite the opposite of my office in Connecticut. It's just a very different discussion. So it's more of a buyer's market, even in Lisa. And I'm curious to see what, like, in the Boston suburbs, what you're seeing, but it's more of a buyer's market today, meaning buyers are pushing back more and are a little more, they're definitely more hesitant, but it's loosened up for them a little bit in the Northeast, in comparison to obviously like end of 21, early 22 time frame. But it's certainly not a buyer's market up there, just on supply and demand economics.
It's funny. I went to I'm on the article, the Redfin article, and towards the bottom, there's the metro level summary of the 50 most populous metros. And if you look at it, what's crazy fascinating is they list only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 as sellers markets. And it's interesting to look at what 5 they list, because Byron, it's a little bit different than I think what you and I would expect. So they have Nassau County, New York at a seller's market with 33% too few sellers. Montgomery County, Pennsylvania, Tom, with
That's where I live.
a shortage of 32% of sellers. Newark, New Jersey, seller's market, a shortage of 29%. Milwaukee, Wisconsin, a shortage of 26%. And New Brunswick, New Jersey, at a shortage of 19%.
This is all Northeast and one Midwest. I mean, I think it makes sense to me.
Well, but then they list Boston as a balanced market with
And
an
you would disagree
overage
with
of
that?
2.1%. Well, I don't. Yes, actually, I would disagree with that. I think it's still slightly skewed on the seller side. It's interesting to look at the definitions of balanced versus buyer versus seller, and how they're shaking all of that out, because so they have a shortage of 6% in Cleveland, Ohio, which they're still listing as a balanced market. And so when you look at like Providence, Rhode Island, they have balanced, Boston balanced, Baltimore.
Yeah, but these are actually like
balanced.
the cities, though. Too. I like this is where I have issue with this report because they list Philadelphia as a buyer's market, and then they list Montgomery
Correct.
County as not. I mean, they're adjacent, right? So yeah, I think what's going to happen here, people are going to think metro area, but it's not metro area. It's actually like the city itself, because otherwise they wouldn't be. And why are they just picking Montgomery County out of all the counties here? Like it's. I think they're. Well, but my point is, I think they're looking for data that's going to mislead people. I mean, because.
Right.
It's just, I mean, what about the other counties? What about the counties outside Boston? I mean, you could go, what about Westchester County, New York? I would imagine that's probably pretty similar. They don't have that in here. So
that's my point, that it doesn't seem necessarily quite right. And maybe that's it. Maybe they're, instead of saying, maybe it's the entire MSA or, whatever, however you would
not.
classify it. Yeah.
And that's demonstrated by the Philly versus Montgomery County. I mean, they border each other. I live 3 miles away from Philadelphia. I'm the closest township to the. I mean, we're right on the city limits. So that's the problem here. I mean, they kind of cherry pick the data. Maybe that's why Glenn Kelman had to resign. He was your loser of the year, Lisa. I mean, they're putting out bullshit reports like this that are misleading people.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
The region of the country that is the healthiest on pending home sales is the South region as classified by NAR, which includes obviously Texas and Florida. And those are the markets where agents are saying that, man, the market is so difficult because of the high inventory. Well, when you have that much inventory, it's just, even though it's leaning more buyers in those markets, it's actually more normal of a real estate market.
Mm-hmm.
And, in the markets where you have this low inventory, Midwest and Northeast, pending sales are taking a massive hit there relative to 2001 levels of activity. The South is the only one that's even close at a 94 on a scale of 100, 100 being 2001 activity. The Northeast is like the 50s or the 60s. I mean, so you need a lot of inventory to come back to all these other areas to, have enough interest where both sellers and buyers want to enter the market. And so the agents, down here that are struggling with high inventory, they're just struggling with a lack of a skill, all to me.
I agree with that. I think it's easier to put deals together in a higher inventory market.
I love high inventory markets. I agree.
It is a skill issue. And, there was the agent that was created during COVID. We've talked about this a lot, where those folks, they did business by showing up and not screwing anything up, not understanding the market, not understanding how to talk to people, all the things I know we coach our teams on. So that's a great observation, Byron. And to me, if you're in one of those markets, I see opportunity. I mean, that's a normalization, and that's where you can really thrive. And you can also have, a little bit of a more controlled lifestyle than just having to run out and show properties right away because they're going to sell in a day. So there's a lot of opportunity there if you want to dig in and actually learn the business.
Oh my God. Can I just bitch session for a moment, please? I'm working with a
usually
client.
What you're doing our text thread. Go ahead.
Yeah. And I don't work with a ton, but I have one client very active. I'd say some words, but I'm letting it go anyway. And we're expecting, Byron, you wouldn't know, but we're expecting 2 feet of snow up here to start on Sunday.
I thought you were going to say something else that you and Steve you said we're expecting.
That would be mind blowing if that would have happened.
Yeah.
I would have.
Or is that
my
too
jaw
much?
Oh my
of
God,
a, too much of
you're
a
gonna give me-
gender classification for you, Lisa?
You're gonna give me nightmares.
No.
You're gonna legit give me nightmares.
I know you
Anyway,
got the 2 feet of snow.
we're expecting 2 feet of snow, and I had this client doing a 1031 exchange, and we were looking at some multifamilies, and there were 2 that were listed last night that would be great fits for helping him accomplish this 1031 exchange. And took a look, and offers due on Tuesday. And I'm like, how do we get in there to show the property? Like, if 2 of the days before this offer deadline are going to be covered with 2 feet of snow. I don't think agents are thinking. I think they still have that COVID mentality where everybody's going to drop. Oh, okay, go.
Agents don't think, Lisa. That is asinine. What are there's no strategy there. And why would you set a deadline? Like, they better have multiple offers in hand anyway, because I think that's a bad move when you start. It scares people off.
Well, yeah, it's nutty.
So I didn't mean to interrupt, Lisa, but I think that people do think, and if you're a knowledge broker out there listening to this, you're a follower, think this stuff through with your seller. The snow will slow down the market, unfortunately. We were talking about this on our accountability call. Now, what knowledge brokers are also doing, they're checking out these new products that are out there from Realtor.com. So Realtor.com is rolling out Realtor.com Plus. Are we allowed to talk that are we allowed to say that we had a meeting with them before this? Is that okay now?
This is definitely. Let me be clear on one thing before the comments fill up. This is not a paid advertisement.
Nope.
This is not even a pitch. We are Realtor.com partners. We're friends with executive team at Realtor.com. We had a conversation with them about a new product that they're rolling out. There's been a fear in the industry over since 2024 that buyer agents could go away. There's a lot of fear behind that when you talk about exclusive markets that could further push buyer agents out of the picture. Obviously, that hasn't happened since 2024. Realtor.com.
I called that.
Lisa
saying.
called that.
Yes.
Realtor.com's been such a supporter of obviously buyer agency and why it's important for home ownership. And anytime a company does something that supports that, and then offers it, like one of the things about BAM is, that's different from legacy media companies is like, we don't have a paywall on articles because information should be free and accessible. It's 2026. You got a big conference coming up the end of the month from a company that gets their sourcing from the New York Times and then slaps a paywall on it. We think things should be free and accessible. Realtor.com has made this tool free and accessible through MLSs. There are, for as much concern, and there's going to be a conversation, obviously, at the end of this month on MLSs, concern of what's going on with MLSs. There are a lot of great tools inside of MLSs. And that's what I think is so unique about this, where Realtor.com went to the MLSs, and there's a lot more MLSs they're going to be announcing over the coming months. But what's called Realtor.com Plus now is available as a free tool and resource for agents to utilize in their MLS. And not talking about generating leads, but helping your customers with an experience right now. So your customers that you're working with, what we call middle of the funnel, middle or even bottom of the funnel experience as a separator from what everybody else in the market is doing, which is probably doing some kind of outdated MLS tool. So they launched it this week, and I just wanted to congratulate Realtor.com personally for what they're doing. Lisa, did you have any thoughts on it, or?
No, I think it's a really great step in the right direction to help agents kind of reclaim, I don't want to say ownership necessarily, but to reclaim the relationship with their consumers and protect it, right? One of the big complaints that always comes up is that when consumers visit these portals, that their information is sold regardless of the
Mm-hmm.
relationship that they might have with an agent. And so I think that the agents that are really, truly invested in building relationships and maintaining relationships with those consumers, I think that this is a really great step in that direction. And if you think about it from the perspective of those of us, the three of us who buy a lot of online leads, regardless of
Yeah.
source, one of the big complaints that my agents bring up all the time is this consumer already has an agent, right? And I think that this product could do a little bit on that side of it as well, to pull back some of that from the funnel, which would
Yeah.
be, I think, a win for everybody. The
So there's
consumer,
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, Lisa.
the consumer, the agent who owns the relationship, and the agents who are receiving leads.
So this Realtor.com Plus collaborative home search platform, it's built directly with MLSs rather than layered on top. And the experience a lot of agents have with their buyers is the buyers are using something outside of their world. And having this built in helps their experience, and it helps the consumer experience with something that they, a piece of software that they already really like. You're not jamming them
Right.
into, software that they don't use. So, congratulations to Realtor.com and what they're doing. There's a whole article on BAM, nowbam.com. No paywall, of course, because we're reasonable and smart, unlike others. Just go to nowbam.com or the link down below if you want to read more. We'll bring you more information. Realtor.com did a big announcement this week. They're smart getting it into the MLSs. The problem with putting products into MLSs is that not enough agents are paying attention to all the I'm always looking at the products in the MLS. Knowledge brokers, look at what's in your MLS and what's accessible and how you can maybe use that in your business. That'll be the uphill battle for Realtor.com on this, is that getting agents aware. 1 week of their announcements that they're doing won't be enough. Damien's very smart as a CEO. I told you at the beginning, this wasn't a paid ad. If Realtor.com was smart, they'd pay us a bunch of money to talk about this more and integrate this into content down the road. Because, in a week, agents won't even realize that this exists, and it won't be in their MLS. So this is going to have to be a continuous message from Realtor.com to put out there, because agents, they're always looking for something outside the MLS, and because some of the tools in the MLSs aren't that great, but some of them are. But here's one where this is a leader in the space that's integrating directly into the MLS and Realtor.com. So if it's in your MLS, you should take advantage. If not, there's more coming. Across 15 MLSs right now with 120,000 real estate professionals. So.
Yeah, we got to see the product. I mean, the map feature I thought was one of the best. I mean, I know that's how a lot of people like searching. They want to look at like certain streets, certain zip codes. And, anytime you're protecting agents and you're offering a tool that has the same data, to me, that's a win.
On search, I've always said you need to have a different search experience than setting somebody up through the MLS. Number one, you need to be presenting properties to your buyer, which means you need to be on the same search that they are on so that you can comment on that. This product's like one of those advanced products that allows you to do that stuff. Number two, you can't just set buyers up on MLS searches, because every buyer is set up on MLS searches and multiple times, and it's a bad experience. This solves that. I mean, it's why I've over the years paid for Real Scout and where you have a really advanced search experience. If that's the number one thing that over 50% of buyers say they want, is a buyer agent helping them find the home, and you're using some outdated MLS search, I mean, that right there is starting behind the 8 ball. So anyways.
Really good stuff there. Excited for Realtor.com, and hopefully they continue to integrate with these MLSs. So before we wrap here, we got some book winners, Byron, some of the YouTube commenters.
Yeah.
Do you want to announce the next round here? And
yeah, Bobby,
put
those up, Bobby.
Unleash your hate on Byron and win a free book right in the comments on YouTube.
And now you get a Guinness Book of World Record hardback Alex Hormozi 100 Million Money Model book for jamming me in the comments if you'd like. You can get a benefit out of it. All right. So Stacy Bloom.
Way to go, Stacy.
Is
Thanks
this
for listening.
Advantage Nashville? Is that one of Gary's accounts? He probably has 1 million accounts. Lisa, is that a Gary Ashton?
Gary's got a click farm down in Nashville.
No, I don't know.
So? I don't know. Gary, I'll send you a book if you want a book here. All right. And the McKinney team.
Just ask you.
So there you go.
Wait,
3
that
more.
comment says great boys pod.
Oh, because we had Luke last week.
Yeah, it was Luke last week. It was because you couldn't make it.
Yeah. I mean, the feedback, Lisa, I can't tell you how many letters and emails and texts I got from that podcast this past week.
I got the most mail I ever got in my house. I don't even know how they got my address. It was incredible. All handwritten notes.
If you're subscribed and leave a comment, we'll give away 3 more books. This will be the last week we do it. So we did it for 3 weeks. 3 more books coming. Bobby or Haley reached out to the first 3 winners. These 3 reach out. And so we'll give out 3 more of the Alex Hermoso. You got to be subscribed and comment, and you'll get selected to get a book. Yeah, what a pod last week. This one was pretty good too. Glad to have you back.
Hey, what are you guys currently reading or listening to? What is your current book?
I'll tell you what. I just finished. Let me get the name right. If you have yours ready, Lisa, you can.
I do.
I read Go Dog Go last night with my daughter. It was pretty good.
I'm posting mine on my Instagram stories all year because I committed to listening to 500 hours on Audible this year, like my personal commitment to myself. And so I'm down 3 books so far, which I've done. I did the 12-week year. I'm doing that as like book club with my company here, agents and staff. I did David Goggins' Can't Hurt Me again, which was a good one. I enjoyed listening to it, I think even more than reading it. And then I listened to The Next Conversation, which I enjoyed, and I think I'll actually listen to again because there were so many great takeaways. And now I'm listening to Extreme Ownership.
All good books.
So last weekend, I mean, I do this maybe once a year. It's a very short audiobook. I re-listened to Do the Work, Stephen Pressfield.
Do the Work? All right, I'm going to add that to my list. I added the other one that
it's very
The Millionaire Next Door. I tossed that one in my
That's a good book.
Do the Work
I've been
is
reading Be
so
Useful
short.
by Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Cigar
Do the
smoker.
Work.
So Do the Work's very short. You'll finish it like
an hour and 25 minutes
on a car ride or something. But you know what this one would be good for? Anybody who's feeling the beginning of the year hangover or something, and just kind of like the reminder of doing the hard work and all of that kind of stuff.
What was yours, Tom?
Be Useful.
Be Useful.
And then I'm on Predictable Success by Les.
Oh, I did that one. That's a good one. But
Is that a good one?
It's a slog.
Yeah.
You might be better reading it versus audibling it.
Yeah, Be Useful is an easy read. I mean, it's something you can pick up and it's about like certain principles, and so you can read like a chapter at a time and kind of move on, which is
just bought it. Added to both of yours are added to my library.
Very cool. All right, you two. That's all we got this week. Lisa, the New England Patriots are 4.5-point favorites. Do you think they're going to win at Denver?
I do.
Backup quarterback.
I do. I think we have a really good shot. So, and the last game was bananas.
So I got some warning news for all the Patriot fans. The last time they played a backup quarterback in a big game, it did not end well.
Yeah.
Back at Super Bowl 52.
Okay.
This is why Tom brought this up, because he talked about Nick Foles.
Nick Foles tweeted this. Tweet of the year. It was amazing. He goes, it was incredible.
That was a complete troll tweet. Lisa, there's still time, and Tom, to book a flight come down, and it's gonna be 80 degrees down here this weekend. So if you guys want to come down, I'll take you to dinner.
I can't fly anywhere. I'm getting 2 feet of snow.
Yeah.
I'm saying there's still time today before the snow.
I will be down in Florida
starts piling up
in March, and we will connect, Byron.
It's just going to be straight 80s all weekend. No humidity. Quite beautiful.
I got my snowblower repaired. I'm ready. It's going to be fun. We got a nice like crock pot meal planned for Sunday. Lisa, it's not pulled pork. We're going with something different this time.
Okay.
Should be good.
Okay.
Great day to call people on Monday when the snow's there, by the way. Like, this should be something you do as an agent. If you're in the Northeast, like, pick up the phone. Don't just sit around in your
Not
sweatpants
just the
all day
north.
like
I think
most
the
people.
snow's hitting everywhere, isn't it? Like the whole eastern, southeastern.
Well, it moved
areas,
north. And I know there's going to be some ice down in like the Carolinas, even like Tennessee. So, I mean,
Yeah.
anywhere. I mean, anyone, anytime you get a snow day, it's like people, they're all home. Call them.
We're doing a virtual call party with our folks and then have some fun stuff just to kind of build brand awareness and some contests, like a snowman building contest that will be run through social media for anybody in the community, and a coloring contest because kids off from school need to be kept busy so parents can still work.
Oh, no. I have some bad news for you. We have asynchronous learning on Monday. We already got the emails. Kids are bringing home their laptops.
No.
I think we're going to have even though I have a generator, I think we're going to have a power outage at our house so our kids don't have to get on. But that's what I'm going to tell the teacher.
Wow.
No, this is legit. They were already talked about it. So power outage at the tools.
I gotta go.
A full house generator.
I got a lot of golf to play this weekend. I'll see you
All
guys.
right.
Have a great
Bye,
weekend,
guys.
everybody.
Goodbye.
Thank you so much for checking out this week's Knowledge Brokers podcast. If you want to take what we're doing here at BAM and use it in your own business, join us over at School. We just switched BAMX into the #1 education and community platform. Go to school.com/BAMX or hit the link in the description, school.com/BAMX. I'll see you in the community.